You sit on the very edge of the chair, ready to vanish, making your body as small as possible. Your breath is shallow, held tightly in your chest, terrified that exhaling too loudly might disturb the air of others. You apologize for the space you occupy, for the time you take, for the simple fact of your own heartbeat. The invitation in your hand feels like a debt, a heavy weight you can never truly repay, no matter the cost. Enter the sequence, commit your presence to the ledger of the scene, and join the collective memory of the invisible ones. How can a welcome feel like a prison cell when the door has been left wide open for you? They see a guest who is polite to a fault, someone who never complains, the person who always stays late to help clean. The world labels you as humble, an easygoing soul who moves through rooms like a soft breeze, never causing a ripple or a storm. You are the one who is always asked back, the reliable presence who listens more than they speak, appearing perfectly content in the background. But the politeness is a shield, a frantic attempt to justify the oxygen you consume by being as useful as a tool in their hands. Underneath the quiet smile, there is a friction, a constant calculation of the cost you are inflicting on the host just by existing. They mistake your reticence for shyness, not realizing it is a desperate hypervigilance, an obsession with reading the room for any sign of hidden resentment. You treat every kindness as a transaction, a high-interest loan that you are certain you will eventually be called upon to settle with interest. Society rewards your self-effacement, feeding the beast of your invisibility with praise for being so low maintenance, so easy, and so entirely forgettable. The mask is a thin veil of compliance, hiding the internal screaming of a soul that feels it has stolen its way into the light. You have become a master of the exit, always knowing exactly where the door is, prepared to leave before anyone realizes you were ever there. The social mask is a ghost, a presence that mimics life but fears the weight of its own shadow falling on the floor of another. If you have felt the weight of this specific silence, you are not the only one listening to these words. What happens when the mind begins to believe that even a sincere yes is actually a hidden no wrapped in pity? The mind operates under a heavy tax, a cognitive distortion that interprets every social gesture as an act of charity rather than a genuine desire for your company. By viewing yourself as a burden, you create a psychological distance, a way to protect yourself from the eventual rejection you believe is inevitable and well-deserved. It is a mechanism of preemptive grief, where you mourn the loss of a connection while you are still standing in the very center of it. The brain chooses the safety of the perimeter, convinced that being an outsider is the only way to ensure you are never truly in the way. You are not being modest. You are reacting to a deep internal belief that your existence requires a constant, exhausting justification to everyone around you. The burden narrative acts as a filter, straining out the warmth of a compliment and leaving only the bitter sediment of your own perceived inadequacy. This pattern is a defense against disappointment, a way to keep your expectations low so that the pain of being forgotten doesn't sting quite so much. The neurobiology of belonging is hijacked, misfiring signals of danger when you should be feeling the comfort of a shared meal or a soft conversation. By staying small, you attempt to minimize the damage you think you cause, oblivious to the fact that your absence leaves a genuine, aching hole. The pattern is a self-fulfilling prophecy, where your fear of being a nuisance makes you so distant that others eventually stop trying to reach you. You have built a mental prison where the walls are made of the apologies you offer for things that were never actually your fault. Why does the subconscious mind treat a genuine welcome as a trap that is simply waiting for the right moment to snap shut? You stand in the office kitchen, waiting for the microwave, and apologize to the person who walks in 3 minutes after you have already arrived. The silence feels like an accusation, so you make a joke about how much space you are taking up, hoping to diffuse their imaginary anger. During a heated argument, you stop speaking entirely, convinced that your voice is just more noise that the world does not need to hear. You retreat to the bathroom to cry, not because you are finished, but because you don't want to ruin the evening for the people outside. In a grocery store line, you let 3 people go ahead of you because your cart is full and you feel like an inconvenience. The cashier's smile feels forced to you, a performance of patience that you believe is masking a deep desire for you to simply disappear. A late-night text from a friend asking for help sends you into a spiral of guilt, not because you can't help, but because you're helping. You wonder if they only asked you because everyone else said no, or if they are just being nice by letting you feel useful. When you are sick, you hide the symptoms, refusing the soup offered because the thought of someone washing your bowl is too much to bear. The kindness of others feels like a debt you can never pay, a weight that grows heavier with every thank you are forced to say. You arrive at a party and spend the entire time in the kitchen washing dishes, finding safety in the labor that justifies your physical presence. The host tells you to stop, but you can't, because the work is the only thing that makes the air in the room feel breathable. Even when you are invited to sit at the head of the table, you choose the smallest stool in the corner of the crowded room. You are a ghost of the feast, watching the joy of others while calculating the exact moment you can leave without being a burden. How can a soul find rest in a home where it believes it is nothing more than a guest who has stayed far too long? The architecture of this perceived weight is often drafted in a home where your needs were secondary to the survival of the adults. You learned that to be seen was to be an interruption, a crack in the fragile piece that you were tasked with holding together. The aha moment is the realization that your self-effacement is a survival strategy, a way to stay safe by remaining perfectly, quietly invisible. In the evolutionary mirror, the one who took too much from the tribe was cast out, so your brain treats every request as a risk. Your nervous system is tuned to the frequency of others, misinterpreting their natural exhaustion as a direct reaction to your own simple, human presence. The prefrontal cortex works overtime to edit your personality, trimming away the edges until there is nothing left that could possibly cause any friction. By assuming you are a burden, you create a sense of control, deciding you are unwanted before anyone else has the chance to actually say it. You are echoing the voice of a caregiver who is overwhelmed, inheriting a sense of too muchness that was never actually about your worth or value. The child who was told to be quiet and play alone is now the adult who feels like a nuisance for merely existing in the light. This mechanism is a heavy anchor, keeping you moored in the shallow water because you are terrified of the space the deep sea requires. Deep down, there is a haunting conviction that your true self is an imposition, a shadow that everyone else is just too polite to mention. What if the heavy energy you feel is not your own weight, but the crushing gravity of a ghost that was never yours to carry? Those who love you feel the sting of your constant apologies, a barrier that prevents them from ever truly reaching out to touch your soul. You reject their generosity with a wall of guilt, turning their genuine gifts into a source of private shame and public, awkward, stuttering discomfort. The people around you begin to feel untrusted, as if their invitations are being scrutinized for hidden motives or secret, underlying feelings of deep resentment. They stop offering help because they know you will make them feel guilty for helping, turning a simple act of love into a heavy transaction. Your partner watches you shrink away from their care, feeling as though their affection is a burden you are struggling to carry for their sake. The children learn that taking up space is a sin, watching you apologize for your own hunger, your own exhaustion, and your own very tears. You manipulate the emotional distance by never asking for anything, ensuring that no one can ever truly get close enough to see your true needs. The ripple effect is a quiet erosion of intimacy, a world where everyone walks on eggshells because you refuse to believe you are truly wanted. They start to withdraw, not because you are a burden, but because the constant labor of reassuring you is exhausting their own limited, precious emotional stores. Your fear of being an inconvenience becomes the very thing that inconveniences the people who would otherwise happily walk beside you through the dark. The isolation you have built is a cold room where the only thing that grows is the certainty that you are right to stay hidden. If you have felt the weight of this specific silence, you are not the only one listening to these words. Can a connection survive when one person is constantly trying to apologize for the very bridge that connects them to the other soul? This hyper-awareness of others was once a vital compass, a way to navigate a chaotic world by becoming a master of empathy. The gift of your sensitivity is a profound ability to read the unspoken, to see the pain in others before they even feel it. You are the one who notices the empty glass, the lonely face, and the subtle shift in the room that everyone else simply misses. This trait allowed you to be the peacekeeper, the quiet anchor who kept the ship steady when the storm was at its very worst. It is a superpower of observation, a refined social intelligence that makes you a deeply considerate and profoundly gentle presence in any room. You have the rare ability to provide comfort without demand, a selfless grace that heals the world in 1,000 small and invisible ways. The caution you feel is a mark of a heart that values the comfort of others above its own, a rare and beautiful kindness. Your capacity for restraint is a quiet form of respect, a refusal to impose your will on a world that is already so loud. The shadow you try to hide is actually the source of your light, a deep reservoir of compassion that the world desperately, truly needs. How can a heart so focused on the well-being of others believe that its own presence is a source of nothing but grief? The price of this constant shrinking is a life half-lived, a story where the main character is always hiding behind the heavy, velvet curtains. You steal from your friends by denying them the joy of giving, turning their love into a source of your own private, agonizing debt. The dark side is a soul that is slowly disappearing, a person who has become so small they can no longer feel their own pulse. Every apology is a hammer blow to your own self-worth, a repeated statement that you do not belong in the light of the sun. You have become a secondary character in your own existence, a background extra who is terrified of ever stepping into the center of the frame. The moments of true connection are sacrificed on the altar of your fear, leaving you with nothing but the safety of a cold, empty room. Authenticity is viewed as a dangerous luxury, a fire that might burn the very people you are trying so desperately to protect from yourself. The price of being no trouble is being no one, a hollow state of being where your dreams and desires are simply left to rot. You are building a life out of the scraps that others leave behind, convinced that you do not deserve a place at the primary table. What remains of a human being when they have spent their entire life trying to leave no footprint on the earth beneath their feet? The healing is not a sudden expansion. It is the quiet, daily decision to occupy the space that was always intended for your unique life. You begin by accepting a small favor without a single apology, letting the word thank you stand alone like a sturdy, unshakable stone tower. Notice the internal panic that screams you are a nuisance, and breathe through it until the alarm becomes a distant, harmless, and fading echo. It is a practice of radical presence, a way to prove to your soul that your company is a gift rather than a heavy, taxing debt. Allow yourself to be the center of someone's attention for 1 minute, resisting the urge to deflect the warmth back toward their own comfortable light. You learn to see the joy in the eyes of those who invited you, trusting that their desire for your presence is real and entirely true. Acceptance becomes a quiet act of courage, a refusal to believe the lie that you are a glitch in the world's perfect and beautiful design. The path forward is a series of deep inhales, a widening of the shoulders that acknowledges your right to breathe the same air as everyone. If you have felt the weight of this specific silence, you are not the only one listening to these words. What happens to the shadow of the burden when you finally step into the sun and realize you are made of light? The file on the invisible guest remains open, a record of a heart that tried to pay rent for a world it already owned. You are a masterpiece of consideration, a human being who has spent a lifetime trying to minimize a presence that others find deeply precious. The rhythm of your existence is a soft footfall, a careful dance around the feelings of others while your own needs wait in the cold. We see the pattern in the apology, the edge of the seat, and the way you vanish before the party has even reached its peak. This is not judgment. Tease a pattern. Subscribe if you want to recognize them before they recognize you.